I guess I've avoided this as long as I can, and really, the only reason I'm making this video now is because I'm just tired of answering comments, the same comments over and over again, in the comment section. For those of you who've been around this channel for years, for more than 4 years, you'll remember I used to make some recruiting videos. You know, if you weren't around 4 or 5 years ago, just look up Uncle Lou Aubrey Solomon, or look up Uncle Lou Demetrius Robinson. I stopped following recruiting because it just was driving me up the wall. With the committing, the uncommitting, the decommitting, the recommitting, these Hollywood production announcement ceremonies. It just was, well, I'll be honest with you, my heart doctor told me I didn't need to be following recruiting anymore. He said it was driving me to an early grave, and I believed him. But this Arch Manning situation is just taking on a life of its own. I hear people talking about it every day, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter, other YouTube channels, whatever, in real life. It seems like everybody has an opinion on Arch Manning, and then everyone has questions about Arch Manning, and I'm just getting tired of having to type out the same answers over and over again in the comment section. So, 2023, number one overall prospect, quarterback out of Louisiana, Arch Manning, of course, from the Manning family. Found out early on he wasn't going to Tennessee or Ole Miss. It basically, in the end, has boiled down to three teams: Georgia, Alabama, and Texas. There were other teams in the running along the way. I think at one point he had a Final Five that may have had Clemson in it, and maybe one other school. Anyway, it's down to those three: Texas, Georgia, and Alabama. So, first off, what are my thoughts on Arch Manning in general as a player, as a prospect, as a future college quarterback? I am not a recruiting expert. I'm here to tell you, people who follow recruiting full time, and that's all they do. If you really want to be an expert on recruiting, you don't really have time to follow anything else. You pretty much have to dedicate yourself to recruiting. I'm not going to come on here and predict that Arch Manning is going to be the greatest quarterback ever, the worst quarterback ever, somewhere in between. I'm not going to compare him to, oh, he's going to do what such and such did. I don't follow it that well. So as far as, if you clicked on this video looking for expert opinion on recruiting, you clicked on the wrong video. This is pretty much an opinion channel anyway. I do have some opinions about Arch Manning. I'm not here to tell you these are true or accurate. These are just my opinions. I worry about the league he plays in. From what I understand, he plays in a small private league in Louisiana. And if I'm wrong, feel free to let me know down below. Again, I'm not a recruiting expert. I say it a million times. But from what I hear, he plays in a small private league in Louisiana. Now, I know he goes to all these camps and he does well, and he's got the size and the height and the arm strength and the speed, and he can run, and he's mobile, and he's athletic, and I get all that, and that's great. That's great. But I always worry about somebody who plays in a small league. Like Brock Vandagriff is a good example. Brock Vandagriff put up ridiculous numbers in some small private Christian league no one's ever heard of in the middle of Georgia, and now he can't get on the field in college. Been there 2 years, so now that doesn't mean he's going to be bad. It's just one of the things I'm looking at when I look at Arch Manning. I will tell you this: in terms of the hype that Arch Manning is receiving, the closest thing I have seen in recent years, and by recent years I mean a decade, when it comes to the hype that Arch Manning is getting, the closest I have seen to that is Trevor Lawrence. Now, Trevor Lawrence was from the state of Georgia, where I'm from, so I couldn't help but kind of keep up with his high school development and recruitment. If you were a college football fan in the state of Georgia, you knew who Trevor Lawrence was from the time he was in 8th grade. Trevor Lawrence is the best high school quarterback I've ever seen, period. I don't want to hear about Deshaun Watson. I don't want to hear about Andrew Luck. I don't want to hear about anybody. He's the best high school quarterback I have ever seen, period. Again, coming from someone who's not a recruiting expert, I was 100% certain that Trevor Lawrence was going to be an NFL player when he was in 10th grade. 10th, there was no doubt or question about it. If the NFL and college didn't have the 3-year agreement, where you have to be 3 years removed from high school, there's no doubt in my mind an NFL team would have drafted him straight out of high school, period. not first round. You know, he would have gone first round out of high. I don't think anybody would go right now first round out of high school, but he would have got picked up by an NFL team after his senior year of high school. After his first year at Clemson, he was a number one NFL draft pick, period. He didn't need to play year 2 and year 3 for Clemson. He didn't need to play. He's the most NFL-ready high school quarterback I have ever seen. I've read a bunch of articles that give that title to Andrew Luck. I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't really following recruiting when Andrew Luck was coming up through high school, and what would that have been? The mid-2000s, I guess? So I don't know that. But a lot of articles give that title to Andrew Luck. But Trevor Lawrence is the most NFL-ready high school quarterback I've ever seen. I don't think Arch Manning is Trevor Lawrence. Just my opinion. Just my opinion. Doesn't mean that Arch Manning's not going to be a great college quarterback. Doesn't mean that Arch Manning's not going to end up being a number 1 overall pick in the NFL and making Pro Bowls and winning Super Bowls, and hell, he'd go to the Hall of Fame for all I know. I'm just talking about what I see with my own eyes when I watch these two people play. To me, Arch Manning is no Trevor Lawrence. He's no Trevor Lawrence. I think he's really, really good. Is he overhyped? Well, it's always possible that any player is overhyped, right? Well, we see it all the time. Not every 5-star pans out. Not every first-round NFL draft pick makes it in the NFL. We see overhyped people all the time for one reason or another. So let's talk about his last name, Manning. It's an obvious advantage, at least when it comes to perception and recruiting. Now, it can be a disadvantage too. Living with that pressure and sort of under the shadow of Archie Griffin from 50 years ago, Peyton Manning from 30 years ago, Eli Manning from, 15 years ago, whatever. That can be a lot of pressure. And a lot of kids would crack under that pressure. And from what I can tell, Arch Manning is not. He's not hiding from the fame that his last name brings. It hasn't seemed to affect him negatively at all. But it is possible that last name is contributing some to his hype. I mean, you can't ignore the fact that the guy has not 1 but 2 living NFL Super Bowl winning quarterback champions, relatives. You can't ignore that. I mean, the bloodline is what it is. DNA and your genes are real, So, there's no hiding or denying that. So, do I think Arch Manning is a can't-miss prospect? No, I don't. I think it's possible he flames out. I don't think it's likely. Another concern I have with Arch Manning is, and this is for whoever gets him, whether it's Bama, Texas, or Georgia, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on who I think gets him here in a minute. How much pressure is going to come along with signing Arch Manning in terms of playing him right away? He's going to get a huge NIL deal, which means the boosters are going to want to see him on the field. His family's going to want to see him on the field. A lot of fans who are just enamored with his last name or just enamored with him in general because he's been in the headlines for so long as a recruit, a lot of fans are going to want to see him play right away. How much pressure does that put the coaching staff under? I don't know. Now let's talk about where I think he's going to go. Of the 3 schools that seem to be remaining, Texas, Georgia, and Alabama, I feel the most confident in scratching off one of those names. And again, he could still choose either any of the 3. I'm not saying I'm about to name a school I don't think he's going to. Doesn't mean he's not. I just think this is the least likely right now. If I had to scratch one name off the Arch Manning list right now of the 3, the name that I would scratch off, Alabama. Alabama's the best program in America. They have proven they can put quarterbacks in the NFL. They run a system that's friendly to QBs. If you can throw the ball, you're going to put up massive numbers in that system. We've seen it through multiple offensive coordinators going back 6-7 years to when Lane Kiffin was there. So it's a great place for a quarterback to go if you want to go to the NFL. It's a great place for a quarterback to go if you want to get developed. It's a great place for a quarterback to go if you want to win national titles. It's a great place for a quarterback to go if you want to put up ridiculous numbers and win a Heisman. Really no downsides to going there. So why would I scratch Alabama off the list? Well, a few weeks ago, they received a commitment from another quarterback for next year's class. Obviously, he's not as highly rated as Arch Manning. No one's as highly rated as Arch Manning. He's the number 1 overall prospect in America for next year's class. But Alabama did receive the commitment of a very highly rated 4-star quarterback that they're really, really high on. And maybe that a couple of things there. Maybe Arch Manning looks at that and goes, "What, if they really wanted me, would they have gone out and signed another guy?" Maybe Alabama is looking at it and going, "You know what? We don't think Arch Manning's going to pick us. We don't want to be left holding the bag here, so we're just going to go out and get someone else." Or maybe Alabama actually thinks this 4-star they got is better than Arch Manning. That is a possibility. Believe it or not, recruiting services are not 100% accurate 100% of the time. So I just feel like that, I don't want to say it probably takes Alabama off the list, but if you're looking to narrow the list down to 2, I think right now, maybe you put Alabama on the back burner a little bit, just because of those 3 teams, Texas, Georgia, and Alabama, Bama's the only one that has a current quarterback commitment for the 2023 class. Georgia has not signed another quarterback yet or gotten a commitment from one, and neither has Texas. So now you look at current quarterback situations. Well, Texas has a young Quinn Ewers. Now it's his 2nd year in college, but it'll be his 1st year at Texas and his 1st year playing. So he has to stay in college at least this season and next season. So Texas could bring Arch Manning in. He could play behind Quinn Ewers next year. And then Arch Manning could be the guy in year 2 and year 3, right? 2024 and 2025. Then he could go pro. That works out pretty good unless he's hell-bent on starting year 1. Also, since Quinn Ewers has never played in college football before, he's at Ohio State last year, but he never got on the field. He was behind C.J. Stroud. It's possible Quinn Ewers ends up being overrated and not very good, in which case Arch Manning could show up and beat him out his true freshman year. All right, now let's look at the Alabama quarterback situation. Most likely Bryce Young's last year this year. He's 3 years removed from high school. He could come back and play another year. He's got a year of eligibility, but he won the Heisman last year. He's a favorite to win it again this year, and if he doesn't win it, he's probably going to be top 3 or 4 in the voting. Chances are he's gone after this year. So that leaves an opening at the quarterback position, but Alabama's got an extremely talented backup by the name of Jalen Milroe. I really like Jalen Milroe. I'm not looking forward to Alabama having him as a QB. He's a lot more, he's a much better runner than Bryce Young is. Now, it remains to be seen how he plays under pressure, how he does avoiding live action in games and things like that, because we just haven't seen that much of it because he's been a backup last year and now this year. But his ability and his potential is through the roof. So maybe Arch Manning looks at that and goes, dang, well, I might be behind a 3rd-year Jalen. So anyway, and then you look at Georgia. They're going to have Stetson Bennett this year. He's been in college for 19 years, so this is his last year of eligibility. He's gone. But behind him, you've got not 1, not 2, but 3 very highly rated quarterbacks already on the roster. Brock Vandagriff is in his 3rd year this year, heading into his 3rd year. No, Carson Beck. Carson Beck is heading into his 3rd year. Yet to really get on the field, stuck behind Fromm and Stetson Bennett and JT Daniels and blah, blah, blah. But he was a very highly rated 4-star. Behind him, you've got Brock Vandagriff, a 5-star, heading into his 2nd year, yet to see the field for the same reasons. And then this year, we signed a very highly rated 4-star, Gunnar Stockton. So 2 4-stars and a 5-star on the roster already at UGA. So seems to me Texas, roster-wise, makes the best sense. So let's pretend Alabama's out since they already decided their QB. And where should he go between Georgia and Alabama? Now, I'm a Georgia fan. I would love to get him. If for no other reason, then that means he doesn't go somewhere else. Now, I'm under no delusions that he'll ever play it down at Georgia. Look at, if you look at Kirby Smart's quarterback decisions, and I'm not going to turn this into a Kirby Smart QB video, but being the most talented quarterback on the roster at UGA almost guarantees you that you're not going to start. There have been very few years under Kirby Smart where the most talented quarterback has started. So, to me, that's a negative against Georgia. You look at the offense that Georgia runs. They haven't had a 1,000-yard receiver. Since what? Terrence Edwards? Oh my God, that was 20 years ago. Georgia hasn't had a 1,000-yard receiver in 20 years. Our leading wide receiver last year was Jermaine Burton. He had less than 500 yards. Now he's at Alabama. Georgia has not been known, not just under Kirby Smart, but really going back in the history of Georgia's program, as being a team that is quarterback friendly. Just hasn't been the case. In fact, if you look at Georgia's last 2 national titles in 1980, Buck Bellew was the quarterback. He attempted 1 pass in the national title game. Now, I know that was a long time ago. And then, of course, we had Stetson Bennett as our quarterback this last year when we won the national title, and he was a walk-on. and he had less than 3,000 total yards last year. Georgia's just not a place, at least historically and traditionally and recently, where a quarterback goes to put up huge numbers. I think that works against Georgia. Over at Texas, now they've been struggling lately. If winning a national title or division titles or making playoffs is high on the list for Arch Manning, I don't know what sense it would make to go to Texas. But I do like Steve Sarkisian. I think he's great with quarterbacks. I like his offensive mind. And even though Texas has struggled for 10 years, really, I do feel like Texas has some potential to get it turned around with Steve Sarkisian as the head coach. Now, it's kind of a prove-it year this year for Texas. He lost to Kansas last year, lost like 5 of their last 6 games or something. It was a horrible year last year for Sarkisian. He's got to turn it around this year. But I'm not ready to throw in the towel on Sarkisian, and they still recruited at a really high level. If I had to bet $1 right now where Arch Manning ends up going, my dollar's on Texas. Now, I have I'm not basing that on any inside information. No one has called me and told me anything or messaged me or whatever. Like I said, I don't really follow recruiting that much. This is just gut instinct, opinion, and just sort of the feeling I have knowing what I know about the 3 programs still left in the recruitment of Arch Manning: Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee. I feel like Alabama is falling behind mainly because they already signed another quarterback. I feel like Georgia might be a little bit behind Texas because of the offense we run and the numbers that our quarterback puts up or doesn't put up over the last. We haven't had a quarterback go over 3,000 yards in a season since Aaron Murray, and that was 10 years ago. I want you to think about how college football has changed in the last 10 years. You almost have to intentionally not go over 3,000 yards as a QB over a 10-year period. So I feel like those things work against Georgia. Between Georgia and Texas, if he's looking to go to the best program, the best team, the best program that gives him an opportunity to win a bunch of games and conference titles and playoffs and national titles, that's Georgia. Georgia's got a clear advantage right now over Texas in terms of the hierarchy of college football. I'm not talking about overall. Texas is going to come in here with the blue blood comments, and that's fine. Yeah, I agree. You were amazing in the black and white TV days. But right now, Georgia's in better shape than you are. It's just reality. I still think he ends up choosing Texas. Just my 2 cents. There you go. Quit asking me about it.